Yes, people. What's going on? Welcome back to United View. Welcome back to another Morning View show. Everybody, smash a like straight away. Everybody, just right now. We've already got 100 people watching straight away. Let's just get the first 100 likes.
Through the door.
All of y'all. Yeah.
You're moving up on the accents this morning, aren't you?
Just don't know why. Just feel like doing it. There's no reason.
Yeah.
No
Nice.
reason. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So yes, get to liking and subscribing as well. And whilst you're there, click the notification button, click that bell so you know when we are going live. Like Red Baron says right there, first 100 dislikes, folks. Oh, come on. You've done me there. I didn't even read it. I thought Red Baron always says something good. So
I was wondering why you went.
Yeah, I thought he's a good person to just pick without even reading because Red Baron always, you know, like Daniel Luciano, I can always count on, always something positive and correct. Let's get a quick 100 likes. Don't listen to Red Baron. Let's not do that at all. Marion says, big up, everyone. Big up to you. And he says, Red Baron's now laughing. Yeah, you laugh, bro. Big up to Stephanie. She says, big up Flex and Owen. Kristen says, morning, Aminor. So that means Aminor's here somewhere. Haven't seen him in the chat for a little bit, actually. Shout out. Oh, there he is. Yeah, Aminor is there. Yeah, shout out Aminor. Yeah. He's in. And shout out to big up UV crew. Aslan is bigging us up as well. So yeah, shout out to everyone. Get involved. We've got a lot to talk about as usual on every single morning show. Players, they're players. We touched on this with the Flex and KG show. I want to get Owen to talk view on this, and you guys as it's developed a little bit more. The players want change. Amorim should just basically tell them to shut up and put up or shut up. A lot of people have been talking about that. Some people online have been saying this is the issue. Now it's turning into manager FC apparently, and you know he should be expected to tweak some stuff and change some things rather than upset the whole apple cart again. It has done a little bit of has raised some big opinions. Do you know what I'm saying? It's raised some big opinions. INEOS, of course, more cuts incoming. And the question is, we want to talk about, are they making things worse? I saw some people in the chat before we went live saying they're not necessarily making things worse. It's, you know, they might not have got off to the great start, etc. And some people are straight on Glazers 2.0, absolutely have made everything worse, awful. And I want to talk about that. And of course, Spurs United coming up and anything else in between. Some reports from Portugal reporting that Kienda is done as well. I mean, take that as you will, but yes, so there's a lot to get into. Yeah, exactly. First super chat of the day, though, before we get into the show. Tab says, A-level English language question. Owen Chasfleck. Wear a Liverpool shirt for 15 minutes or let Rikishi give you a stink face. 5 marks. I mean,
Tabrez, at 9:08, at 9:08 in the morning. Bro. I mean, he's coming very
on straight in there.
You know what I mean? This is a breakfast show. People having this during your breakfast. I mean, we try and maybe not successfully. We try and you know curb our language during the show to not upset people when they're having their breakfast or anything like that. And he's doing stink faces from Rikishi.
It's not
or wearing a Liverpool shirt. I mean, I was going to say something then. It's just not. I can't say that around 9:09 in the morning.
No, you can't. No comment, bro. No comment. We failed.
Yeah.
Right. But the players wanting change, Owen. Obviously, we've seen the piece from Chris Wheeler, and like we said, Tyrone Sports. He kind of said it first, and then it came out straight after. What say you on this?
Well,
the tweaking and the it has been raised by others before about tweaking things.
No. Is this vindication? Is this vindication from Fleck? Is this what it is?
Not vindication.
Well, look. This is for those that didn't see. This is what the article was saying, because there might be a whiff, and again, I'm going back on my word already to curb my language, a whiff of bullshit around this, Flex, because the Mail said some Manchester United players have discussed amongst themselves whether a change of Ruben Amorim's plan that is better suited to their style of play might be the best way forward. However, there is no suggestion that Amorim risks losing the dressing room.
I didn't see that last bit yesterday.
Quick to put that one in there as well. Yeah. They also say there is growing concern among some Manchester United players that the teething problems they have experienced under Ruben Amorim are not going to improve unless he considers at least tweaking the system. Now, there's a lot that comes across. One, it goes, oh, maybe he should sort of change for us, but he's not going to lose the dressing room. So straight away you go, so it's kind of a nothing article. You're already saying, you're framing it as, oof, there's unrest there. There's unrest in that dressing room. They're not sure. They're a bit uncertain. Ruben Amorim, and then very quickly under it, but he's not losing the dressing room, and they're actually okay. And when you use the phrase teething issues implies it is not a permanent thing. Teething issues are when you are getting your adult teeth or baby teeth. They're coming through, but they will come through. They will come through, and then you will have your teeth. You're not going to constantly be in pain of your teeth coming through for the rest of your life, hence being called teething issues. It's temporary. It's short-term pain for long-term gain. So is the article suggesting that, again, I've got a little bit of a toothache here. Let's just rip my whole teeth out straight away. That's not dentures it is. Let's go to Turkey and, why not? You'd go, no, you crazy. It's only going to be of like a couple of months. Like, it's going to be all right, So it's a really strange one. It feels like a bit of forced narrative because I think that's just general discussion out there at the moment, isn't it? But from day dot, there's constantly been the whole, he should probably change to a back four, or for these players, they're 4-2-3-1, so.
Because we say about it's bullshit and stuff, but can there be something in it of, like you say, there are healthy conversations that actually are happening, which like it's sort of saying, it's not losing the dressing room. It's not a player revolt. It's not, we're refusing to do this because we've checked out of it. Just in a dressing room, when there's been so much change to a system, is it likely that some of the senior players, I think, because this is all opinion. We have no sources, nothing, right? This is just opinion. I just think a few of the seniors would speak amongst themselves, in canteen or on WhatsApp or on the phone, to be like, yeah, I don't know, man. I think if he just tweets that, or I don't know.
Isn't
I think
that a bit of an indictment?
I just think
on the players themselves. Imagine that, like, okay, he's playing this way. Oh, he shouldn't do that. Why? Well, I can't really do it. Why can't you really do it? Because I'm kind of rubbish. I can't. I play for Man United, and I can't adapt, or I can't work that way. And
it's also because they're losing.
Working hard. If I was a player at that club, and I'd be like, if I was at Man United and the state that they're in at the moment, you would be embarrassed. How could you not be embarrassed? Particularly with the history and the weight of the shirt and all that kind of stuff. And then you sort of dared raise, well, maybe he should change this to a back four. And why? Well, we can't really play in a back three. Well, why not? I can't play as a wing back. I'm not a wing back. Aren't you just then going into self-preservation? Because if you're openly admitting you can't be, say, a wing back at the club, you've got no future. We play wing backs.
So what point? Absolutely. So then, what point do you say? So do we think that Mazraoui then should be like, no, I can do that. Like, I need to get better at attacking, or is it like, well, he's not that player. We have to understand what sort of player he is. He's better as a centre back in this system. So stop playing him right wing back. Because where's that balance then? Because we can also look at players and go, like you say, Dalot, you can't. No one's really going, Dalot has to improve and be like a top attacker, or Mazraoui must improve now and be a top attacker, or Kobbie Mainoo. So what? You can't run. You better stay in there as a 6 and get better at moving in the space, or get better at covering big. You have to also play to the strengths that you do have. So if you are a player, you are going to have a side of not about, I just don't want to do it, so let's not. But my attributes are this. Like Kobbie Mainoo was a 9, then you go, that doesn't help you. Kobbie Mainoo was the 6. He's saying he's struggling in there. So of course there needs to be some improvement as individuals, but do we then need to also go, but Mazraoui's not ever going to be that wing back that we need, because he can't attack like that. He's never going to be able to do that.
But then it's the other part of it is, like, as many people do bring up, and it's true, it's not like these other systems we were getting massive amounts of, success in terms of, like, getting to the top of the Premier League or anything like that. We're off the back of our worst season ever anyway. So you would go back to what? So go back to the system that got the last manager the chop. Like, what?
No, but the adaptation within the system. So there you go. Like what I'm saying is so Mazraoui, yeah, you're not going to be a wing back. You can't do that. Right centre back, yes. Left centre back, yes. So that's not saying that's literally an example of adapting within what you've got to make him feel more comfortable to get more out of him.
But this is what happens in just football as well, isn't it? You look at Liverpool, Ryan Gravenberch, right? They were saying when he was brought in last season, he was brought in for a completely different role than he plays right now. You know, initially when he was brought in last season, obviously Liverpool played 4-3-3, and they thought maybe he was going to be a bit more advanced. Now, this season for Liverpool, he's deeper, more of like a 6, you know, because initially they were going to get in Zubimendi, weren't they? And then obviously that didn't happen. Gravenberch goes in there. Part of the life of a footballer is different managers come in. They've got different ideas. You play in different roles. Wayne Rooney, he says it like, oh, when Cristiano wasn't here, I'd played in a different position. When he left, I was more of a 9, more of a traditional striker. Like, that's just... Again, that's not even necessarily a football thing. It's a life thing. You get different people come in.
Did it at Arsenal. He was playing deeper first, and then he went into left 8. Yeah.
You adapt. You get more strings to your bow, don't you? And you become a more rounded, better functioning person at whatever your job is, whether it's a footballer, whether it's in anything. This sort of dogmatic of someone comes in, well, they've got different ideas to me. I mean, it's the game of chicken that I spoke about months ago, of this weird thing where it's like, no, you don't adapt. You have to adapt. I don't adapt. Boom, boom, boom. And there's a hierarchy involved in football, right? The job of a head coach or a manager is they come in, they have their ideas. You listen to their ideas, you go with their ideas. If you don't, you know, either you're going to go, this is how it should work, you go. But if it doesn't work out for the manager, he will go eventually too. That's how it's always, that's how it's always worked. So this idea of, again, the inmates running the asylum, you know, this whole thing of like, oh, you know, well, it's not working. But again, you go, why isn't it working? Why isn't it working? Because I get it. People would say, yeah, but this 3-4-3, there are problems with it at the moment. But it's this idea of just throwing the baby out with the bathwater. Well, it can't work. It will never work. Stop it.
But then when see, and this
we're only
is
a few months in
discussion. Absolutely, only a few months in. But this is why this discussion is really interesting, because a lot of the times when we critique why things are going wrong, we go, he needs to buy the players that fit this system. These players don't fit this system. The conversation isn't just keep working with them because they need to adapt, because they will be able to do it. The overall consensus is he needs to buy players that can do what he wants them to do. So that means we're saying it doesn't matter how much you stick with them, they ain't going to be able to do what you want them to do. So, and not always out of not trying. Dalot, so Dalot runs up and down. Also, he's fit. He doesn't not. Dalot doesn't not try. Dalot doesn't not try. Dalot's fit. He goes up and down. He works hard. But we're then going the quality of him in the demand of what you want him to do in that area of the pitch ain't going to happen for you. You need to go and get a Dorgu or Kenda and move him about. So, and that's just one thing. So what I'm saying is the players do need to adapt in this moment to improve. But ultimately, we're saying, because if it was just about adapting and just players just need to adapt. People can adapt. Gravenberch did it. You know, Declan Rice did it. Xhaka did it, went from deep to further. You know, players can adapt, fine. But if it was just that, then there wouldn't be this emphasis on he has to bring in his own players. It would be like, no, they're good enough. They can adapt. We've got enough. Like Gravenberch, he's saying he's good enough to adapt. There was this the consensus was that he's good. He's a good pro, and not just a good pro, but he can adapt because he has the ability to do it. So we don't need to go and buy another 6. He can do it. But what we're saying is both. We're saying Ruben Amorim needs all his players. He needs to get to summer, get Dalot out of there, get Kobe out of the 6. He needs a 10. We need a proper 9. You need proper 2 inside 10s. Garnacho doesn't quite do it. So we need the people that can actually carry out the role. And it's not about waiting for them to adapt to get better. Do you see what I'm saying?
Well, it's more saying
we're saying both.
We're saying we know they can't. We know they can't.
Exactly. So if we know they can't, why are we saying they need to adapt? Adapt for what? They're not good enough to do it.
And this is also why this whole thing about the about people saying that Amorim should adapt to the players is redundant, because again we've seen it. Would we genuinely rather Ruben Amorim adapt to some of these players and he goes to I know, counter-attacking 4-2-3-1 or whatever it may be, however big or small the adaptation would be. And yeah, maybe for the rest of this season, pick up a couple of results here and there. But for a fact, 18 months' time, we would be back in this same position once again, because because we've seen it. Because we've seen it that if the players start playing better, or you start adapting to the players and you get some results, then the narrative changes around some of the players, which is actually they're not that bad. Maybe we should stick with them. And like you said, maybe we don't actually have to get this because we've got this. So we shouldn't have to go get this. That's fine. And then the players stick around and they stay longer and longer. And then eventually, 18 months later, we come back to it again and go, actually, that player we thought was actually good. He's not good actually anymore. Actually, he is shit again. It's just the manager kind of actually placated to what he wanted to do. Really, that's it. That's all that happened. Again, we go back to being ruthless. That's what we need to be. And it's, as the article said, teething issues. That's the best way of saying it. Teething issues. Sometimes,
like said, a few months in.
Sometimes it takes long. This season, we know this season's a write-off. We ain't going to do shit all in the league. Maybe in the cups we might. And guess what? Even if we don't, and they're like, but financially, that's about that will hurt us. Yeah, it will financially. Financially, we're a shit show. But this is the other part of it is any well-run club would have this issue of going, these players aren't good enough and we need to get players in. But guess what? We're well-run. We can bring players in. That's no problem. We're now having these other conversations because we know we can't. We know we can't. So we're going, okay, so how do you sort of creatively get around this? How do you sort of get the most out of what you've got here? What you've got here, it's like a big pile of shit, but can we throw some glitter on it to make it look be a bit better? Can we do that? And that's the problem. That's why we sort of go round in circles over and over again, because the only real answer is the majority of those players are not good enough. And until you get the majority out, and until with the head coach, you give them the same amount of time as you give Eric. Look, he's got a 2.5-year contract. As he said, 2 years in, you'll know by the end of this calendar year, to be honest.
And this is where that balance of either one can be true then. You either say, well, the truth of the matter is everybody agrees that these players aren't good enough. So then there's two options. There's option A and option B. There's either because they're not good enough to ever do what you want them to do. In the meantime, do you tweak things to get the most out of this until they go? Or they ain't good enough anyway. So just play the thing that is the long-term thing for when they're not here, and essentially make sure you throw them under the bus. Like, I don't care if you get embarrassed, you're getting one-on-one every time, you can't cross the ball. I ain't helping you. I ain't changing to accommodate you because I'm just going to wait until you undo it. And if you go down that route, which he has done, which is fine, and you keep losing, then what comes with that in that moment is what makes it difficult, which is why he's speaking so candidly. He's not stupid. He's saying, I've picked option B. I'm this coach. I play 3-4-3. And he said many times, Ruben, in so many different ways, I will not change. I will not change. I am wedded to this. I will never change. And to be fair to him, when I said it before, since Newcastle about trying to tweak things and stuff, he has been trying to. He has been by having Mazraoui less so as a wing back. We haven't really seen that much now. It's more Ahmad or
but like you said, that's what's funny.
He is tweaking,
isn't it?
Kobe in the 9, that's trying to tweak something. Garnacho, who else has played somewhere else different?
And it depends on certain games, doesn't it? Because like you said, like depending on the opponent, some games, like if we're playing away from home against a bigger team, we'll sit off more. We'll be a bit more compact. At home, like you said, certain players in certain positions, or like on Friday, those wing backs were probably a couple of times, and especially recently, some of the wing backs, they've become like inverted fullbacks again. They've been in the middle of the pitch, not really holding as much width as they were previously. So I think maybe, does it go back to we don't, unless it's like grand change, you know what I mean? Unless it's like 4 at the back, or different players in certain positions, and we don't see it.
Right, would that make him more or less comfortable? Do we think would Dalot be better in this system if we played him on the right, or is it like, don't know? As a wing back, he might not be it.
To be honest,
he's been that bad.
As a wing back.
But then last year, again, I know this is revisionism. We were lauding him, saying how well he's doing it right back in a shit season. By the way, he had a good season, so you could say he could take to that quite well, and he's just playing a bit more advanced. He can do that. We know he can play as a right back, so that's a start. But then again, you could say he was able to fill in at left back loads and did all right. But this left wing back thing, he ain't doing it.
And
so,
also earlier on in the
something
season,
you look at
when he was in a back four inverted, he was still not good.
He wasn't it. So with Dalot, like Z says there, Flex, he's shit on the right too. He's rubbish anywhere. Right. So there's no point us saying Dalot needs to adapt because we've written him off. Innit? There's nothing to adapt.
Well, I think that's not to say then you just go, or they're never going to adapt or anything like that again. Again, it should be about challenging the players. Maybe not the expectation of, I don't think you can do it. But still, but that's when that's when it pushed. When you see reports like this, that's when we should push back on them and say, why should he adapt to you? You can't adapt to him. No, it's not your job to pick the team or tell the manager or head coach in this case what to do. You're the players. That's how football's always worked. And if Ruben Amorim wants to fall and die on his sword, then ultimately that's his decision to make. It's not the
100% because, and that's another thing, like he said. They either change the manager again, get a new coach, or I leave or whatever. And that's exactly it. Everybody is held accountable to these things. And that's not the worrying thing about it, but that's where we've been. That's why we've said a couple of times early on where we've got a bit twitchy, where we're like, I just worry for Ruben a bit here because he is going to stay with this if you keep losing, if you get in the relegation zone. And like, look, if we're honest, as the days are ticking off now, he's not going to get sacked. But it became a little thing in our heads, didn't it? Of I don't know, man. INEOS are a bit volatile, and I'm not sure. And we'll talk about INEOS in a second. Let's get super chats out and members chats. Ashodu says, "Do you see any signs of Amorim developing the current players, or do we need new players yet again?" That's the thing I'm talking about us saying these players need to adapt. They need to get better. But then at the same time, we're going, these players are shit. They need to leave. For some, it's they need to adapt and improve. And for others, it's you're a write-off. You ain't ever going to be good in this. And that's where I'm like, that's a bit... Well, I'll use your one, Owen, about the both sides of our mouths. It's for you have to choose where it applies to because that's not the same across the whole squad. Some players we're saying, like Ash is saying, well, who are the players then that we think can actually adapt and improve? And who are the players where we go, just not good enough? Just not go out there and get the right profile for this.
Yeah, well, and again, and sometimes it's both, isn't it? And sometimes it's more than that. You look at the Marcus Rashford situation; it's partially about where does he fit into this, this new formation, but also it was bigger than that, wasn't it? Of going, he probably needs to go to just somewhere else. He probably needs something fresh. There's probably an interpersonal thing between him and Ruben Amorim too, and just a change of environment. So with each player it's different, but I think it's an easier conclusion to come to that some of these players have been tried in multiple systems, multiple formations. Again, even going back to when Ruud was the interim head coach, he went with bog standard 4-4-2, and we got some better results, but the players still struggled. Well, we still saw that they couldn't pass the ball 5 yards. Let's not revise that. So it goes back. Like I get your point when you're saying, well, then we shouldn't expect the players to adapt because we know they can't. But it should be on for them to be like, it shouldn't be on them to be telling the head coach or the manager or, having those whispers going, oh, he probably needs to get this to get the best out of us. And you go, well, what is the best out of you?
When have we ever seen it?
Yeah, we've never seen the best out of you. So what best? What are you talking about? And it has to be that culture of, well, you either adapt to survive or you're going to die. Like you're not going to last here because this is what we're going to do. And like you said, that's where maybe the worry came back from INEOS of going, if they do blow all this up now, once again, what message does that send? And what does that do for everything? Like, if you think about it, if we change the coach, even if it was, say, the end of the season, like what
does that mean?
Would we be left with? Yeah, I can't even really think about it. Like, what would that, you know what I mean? We've played a completely different way for 6 months, and it'd
be horrendous. It'd be horrendous. We're in this now. We need to see this through. Red Baron says Flex and Owen are looking glowing this morning. Thank you. Oh, we're glowing, Owen.
Yeah.
We're glowing.
Yeah.
Well done.
Yeah.
We're doing well. We're on our fitness journeys.
Yeah.
We're working out. We're optimized.
Yeah.
Our skin looks good. Yeah. Big up.
Yeah.
Kristen says, question for Tabs, right back at you. Wear a Liverpool shirt for 15 minutes or get a stink face from May Young. Bloody hell. That's going back, isn't it? Jesus.
It's going back, yeah.
Oh, May Young. Red Baron says, sorry, Flex, I can be serious, Baron, or crazy Baron. Yeah, that was from earlier when you done me over. And Andil says a lot of players go to international duty, play different systems and roles and do well. Only at United is the 4-2-3-1 some kind of 10 commandments. Yeah, that's what we have to have. And Terence Pace, shout out to you, Terence, says the players are part of the worst United team and Ruben Amorim wants to fix that. If they don't want to change, then that is time for them to move on. 0 exceptions to the rule. None. And so Ryan says, Owen will never see sense. You will always be senseless, Owen. You will never, ever see sense, ever.
Yeah.
Flex, are you new to this channel? Just look at this record. Onana, De Gea, Eric, Coach FC. Onana, De Gea. What do you mean? Onana, De Gea.
I feel like that phrase "What do you mean?" gets said a lot after Sir Ryan's.
Yeah. What are you? Do you mean? I mean, am I new to this channel? As in, like, what? Because I don't. Because of my takes today, or I don't. What? I'd explain why you're saying that. What is it Owen did or didn't do that will make him never see sense? And just look at this record. Onana and De Gea was Eric. So Eric made that decision to step away from De Gea to Onana, Coach FC. So that's Coach FC because we're allowing him to get his players that he played with before. Is that what you mean? Let us know. Let us know in the chat, right? Let us know. Yeah. Flex is the latest recruit to the UV community, says Red Devils. Yeah, exactly. Right. More INEOS cuts. They are going to be making cuts.
Yeah. Yes. The reaction to this is quite interesting, though, Flex. So Mike Keegan, you kind of touched on this last night, reported that Sir Jim Ratcliffe and INEOS plan to make another 100 to 200 redundancies at Manchester United. The move is aimed at freeing up cash for Ruben Amorim to spend on the first team. Now, a bit more on actually the pushback involved in this from the actual employees at United, come from Adam Crafton, saying Manchester United staff argued that botched INEOS decision-making with regards to Eric Ten Hag and Dan Ashworth, as well as a questionable £200 million summer transfer spend on Matthijs de Ligt, Joshua Zirkzee, Lenny Yoro, Manuel Ugarte, has left ordinary workers at risk of unemployment. So a bit of a civil war mutiny involved there. There was a specific example of someone being let go from Matt Lawton from the Times, saying Manchester United staff have been stunned by the brutal dismissal of the club's long-serving head of team operations, Jackie Kay, as part of the ongoing restructuring by INEOS at Old Trafford. Kay, from a United supporting family, has worked at the club since 1995, initially as an executive assistant to David Gill, or as KG would call him, David Gilles, before taking charge of first-team logistics for more than a decade at Carrington. She was promoted to head of team operations in October of 2023. So you get which is, I suppose, the reaction to this, which has been ever since they started making all of these cuts, which is one part, which is, it's not nice. It is normal from mergers and acquisitions that people, unfortunately, redundancies happen. You also get the part of when they wrote to the 1958, when they said, basically the financial situation that we are in, we have to become a cash positive business and financially we are effed. So this is part of it. But then this is why I did like the part that Adam Crafton kind of reported, because this was something that I'd pointed out recently, which is, okay, it's fine to say, look, the Glazers have run this club into the ground and it's really, really bad. And we're trying to fix this the best we can and almost play that sympathy card off. Yeah, actually, we're the good guys here. We're trying to fix this. We're trying to help this. And this is the only way we know how to do it. But because of what they have done in the last year, outside of the cuts, they are complicit of what people are looking at going, well, you've made mistakes which, in the grand scheme of things, haven't added to it a ton, but they have added to it. So it's not like your hands are completely clean and innocent of this either, which I suppose is where even more of the anger comes from, does it not?
Yes. I think there's a multitude of things going on here. And I think that last bit from Adam Crafton's interesting, where they're saying staff think, like, basically, because you've botched decisions, you've made us even more at risk than we already were.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? And that's the truth. That's the truth. I look, if you take the sentiment and the emotion out of it, which I have no problem doing this at some points when we have to discuss it properly, right? They've walked into an absolute shit show, INEOS. Like, we all know that. The real criminals, like I said, are the Glazers. The Glazers have made this what it is in terms of the club even getting to this level. It's years of mismanagement, it's years of neglection, derelict of duty, all of these things, loans,
debts.
you know what I mean, not being paid off, debts, etc. Take, bleed, stem, and now we have to stem the bleed, right? So in that wasn't INEOS, that was the Glazers. And the reason why INEOS couldn't buy anymore was because the Glazers didn't want to sell anymore. Simple as that. They did not want to sell more than what they sold. And some people were saying last night that, yeah, but you've offered them a way out. Well, yeah, you've offered them a way out, or you can look at it as you've began the bit of chipping away at it to try and acquire more and more and more. And also, if nobody bought it, we would still be in complete control by the Glazers. Murto and all those guys would still be here, and Richard Arnold would probably still be here because the Glazers wouldn't give a shit. So let's not act like we wasn't welcoming in the changes that INEOS were going to give us a football structure. We're all celebrating Omar Barada coming out of Old Trafford, coming into Old Trafford. Holker says, stop saying that, Flex. The Glazers would have been forced to sell. Would they? Would they? They needed investment. They needed minority investment, but they hadn't been forced to. And I haven't got to the INEOS mistakes yet. This is not INEOS sympathizing. I'm getting to why they've been complicit. But what I'm saying is like, why are we not understanding the proper timeline of like what's actually happened here? The Glazers have pulled a blinder. They was looking for minority investment, which helps put a little bit of injection of cash into it because they didn't want to do it. They can afford to, but they didn't want to spend their own money doing it. And it got to the point where the extraction out of Man United could be no more at the current rate. It needed some improvements. It needs something fresh. They didn't want to sell to Sheikh Jassim because that was all of it. I don't understand what people don't get about this. They didn't want to sell all of the club. They wanted to stay here, keep leeching out of it, and pass the buck on to somebody else with minority investment. They've played a blinder. Because now,
and also,
when it goes wrong, we're talking about INEOS. We're talking about Jim Ratcliffe.
It must be pointed out when it comes to that. Again, there is a lot of revisionism when it comes to that whole process. You know, the strategic review of alternatives. One, when it comes to obviously the Qatari stuff, I don't go into I was never real and all that kind of stuff. But clearly there were issues with it, weren't there? In the sense of, you know, as many people pointed out, you know, I suppose the Glazers probably did have a price. And if the Qataris wanted it as bad as they wanted to, they could have just paid it, but they didn't. You know, ultimately they didn't. That's one part of it. Secondly, had it not been INEOS, most likely, because we saw it towards the sort of end of it all, didn't we? That a lot of these investment banks, or a lot of these sort of, was it Carlyle and other companies were all sort of sniffing around going, well, we'll do, you know, minority investment. Well, we'll do $1 billion for 20%, or we'll do this, we'll do that. But if the Glazers put up 20% of Manchester United for minority investment, they will get it. They will get it. They will, because people want to buy into football teams.
People don't get this.
They do. Now, again, because as people are angry, it's because they don't want to, you know, they don't want to hear that, I suppose, that part of it. And look, this is INEOS. They are complicit and they have made mistakes and they have bailed the Glazers out. And they are a collaboration. That's the other part of it too. So when you see these headlines that say, INEOS cuts incoming, let's be honest, the INEOS and Glazer cuts, they're both. It's not as if INEOS are cutting things without Glazer approval.
Exactly.
Of course not. Of course.
But the Glazers are allowing them to do it because, again, they are the cowards. What they've done is we don't want to take on what that looks like. They've seen that there's now some work to do. We can't just keep extracting. It needs some strategic shuffle around, and for it to can't keep being run like this. So INEOS have come in and gone, shit, we got to change loads of stuff here. Like, we got to cut jobs. We got to put the ticket prices up. We got to tighten the belt. And the Glazers have just passed. All that's happened is this smoke screen. And I don't know how people are missing this. They've passed sporting responsibility onto a consortium or a group of people, a company that has a minority percent investment, right? Ownership, minority ownership, right? But they're making all the decisions. Make that make sense. The Glazers have literally taken their power and gone, yeah, you do what you want with the football side, because they don't care. They couldn't give a shit about that.
It does make you wonder, though, doesn't it? It makes you wonder because, of course, look, it's not as if INEOS did walk into it blindly in the sense of they must have known what they're walking into. They knew what they're walking into. So once again, it goes back to this whole, that's why when they did write back to the 1958 basic, this is what's going on, blah, blah, blah. You go, well, I guess I appreciate that transparency, but don't play it like a sympathy card because you did know. It's not as if you didn't know what you were walking into. And I think, do you know what? One of the biggest mistakes they have made, INEOS, is actually initially their communication was pretty good. It wasn't too bad. It felt like their communication, I think, even before they'd got ratified, you had, Sir Jim and all those people on Dave Brailsford meeting with fan groups, and you go, oh, this is better because this is what we haven't had before. But when all of these sort of cuts been happening recently and all the bad stuff happened, they've gone quite quiet, haven't they? They've gone quite quiet. You don't hear from them as much anymore. And you just, if they could speak more openly on things, and if they could actually sort of answer some of the tougher questions of going, well, didn't you know this when you were walking into it then? And, what's the real plan for the future? Not, project, was it 21 or all that kind of bullshit, because Man United fans at the moment, they don't want to hear that. They don't want to hear like, bro, this is what we're getting to, or we're going to win the league by 2028. Because at the moment it seems like a farce, doesn't it? 100%. You want to go, right, okay, you knew what you're walking into. How much let's get everyone onto the same side here, instead of again taking it out on the consumer of like, we're going to raise ticket prices. Why? Because the people that we've got into bed with are shit, and also we've kind of effed up a little bit as well. So you're going to have to fix that for us. People go, whoa, what's going on there? And I think it's like people wanted them to kind of turn it around, or at least try and turn it around, but it feels like everything they've done so far has been a negative.
And now let's get into it for the people like Fergie who are too thick to understand what we're saying, yeah. Because Fergie said they're on the payroll of INEOS. That's because they don't want to lose their press passes at Carrington. Like, you're just chatting shit. We have to just call this as, I'm sorry, like, there's no like Mr. Nice. You're talking crap, yeah. Now let's move on to the bits where we're saying INEOS are complicit in the shit things they've done, because people like Fergie there clearly don't want to talk about the whole thing of how we're here, which includes the Glazers. All of a sudden, according to people like Fergie, the Glazers are just, they're just not to do with this anymore. Like, are you all right, bro? Like, are you actually all right? I'm actually talking to you now. Are you okay, Fergie? Is it just not, the Glazers just, I tell you what, they're done now. We're finished with them. It's all INEOS's fault. But anyway, let's not lose track of this. Let's get on to what INEOS have done. The fact that they have come in to make us more sustainable financially and have directly, like that bit where Adam Craftsman's saying, like directly been involved in making it worse, that is on them. For Sir Jim Ratcliffe to sit there for months, do big interviews with BBC and this, that, and the other, yeah? Well, Dan's a fantastic thing, and Newcastle are being quite stupid about this, being very silly, and all that, co-signing him, and then you get him in, yeah, and then you sack him after a few months. You have to pay to sack him. That money that was supposed to be saving, you've effed that. Eric Ten Hag, you were teetering on the edge. Should we? Shouldn't we? Maybe we should. Maybe we shouldn't. Us as fans were emotional. Some fans said, no, just no. After the FA Cup, me included, we're emotional. But they, as the business decision makers, the people who are supposed to be in control, the people who can make the tough decisions that aren't always the most popular, they bottled that decision. Then they went on to spend over 200 million in the summer for that manager. Then got to October, pulled the plug. You had to pay off Eric Ten Hag, best part of £50 million. You had to go and get Ruben Amorim, best part of £8 million as well. So you've wasted the club's money at a time when you are trying to say that we're trying to not do that anymore. And then you had the cheek to not, like Owen was talking about, the communication, you had the cheek to raise the ticket prices to £66 for OAPs who have done their time in society, who have done their time in supporting this club far and wide, been a season ticket holder for 20 odd years. I sit next to a guy called Joe. I always talk about him. What a guy. Got his name plaque on his seat. Been there for probably 17 to 20 years. And he doesn't work anymore. He's had a stroke. The only thing he does is come to Manchester United every game, has a moan every single game, puts his heart rate up. I'm like, don't think you should be doing this to yourself, Joe. But he comes every week. You're telling him £66. You're telling kids under 16, £66. Joke. So they have been complicit in that, and we will call that out. And actually, when they sacked Dan Ashworth, who was the one getting pelters when I was like, I tell you what, that's incompetence. What was I told? I'll tell you what, it just shows that they know what they're doing. It shows that they didn't let it rumble on. And I'm going, that's bullshit. They just stood there for months telling us Ashworth's the guy. Now he's not the guy. And probably someone like Fergie was probably in the comments then saying, no, it just proves that you're reading too much into this, Flex. So which one is it? So when you want to come in here and start saying, oh, you just want your press pass and you want this, that, and the other, don't talk nonsense. If you don't want to come here to talk about the whole thing, respect everyone's opinions. Of course, that's what we're here to do. But if you don't want to see it all and just start throwing out crap, then wake up. Don't come here.
Well, and again, and this when it goes back to, like I said, it goes back to, we just prefer buzzwords, don't we? INEOS out. Yeah. Why? Wow. You know,
exactly. And if you're not saying INEOS out, it means you're saying they're doing a really good job, and you stand by this, do you? You think raising the ticket prices is good? Do you know what I mean? Like, come on.
You go, okay, well, what for? And that's the other part of it. Like I said, I think when we do INEOS out or whatever, you go like, well, again, they're all together. They're all together. Again, the Glazers are still. It was this thing the other day, wasn't it, about Joel Glazer's still on the like the transfer committee thing. You know, he's still actively involved in transfers. And people are like, this is stunning. I remember when it first got announced that there was going to be a 3-person committee of Sir Jim, Sir Dave Brailsford, and Joel Glazer. I went, that's a massive problem. And then it was like, why? He went, because he's on the fucking committee. Of course, he's still got a say in things. People like. That's when the ideas come in that INEOS have got sporting control. And the thing people said at the time, what does that mean? What does that actually mean? Oh, you don't own any of this, but you're in charge of this. That ain't gonna fucking work, is it? That's not gonna operate like that. Because if you own something, of course, at any point you'll go, no, don't do that. Why? Because I don't want you to do that. It's mine. I can do what you want. It's silly. About, so now are we surprised then, like 12 months, 18 months after the fact, that both of them are still involved and complicit and cutting things because the club financially, all that minority investment was a fundraising exercise because, again, they have financially drained us and made us into an absolute shit show. And if it weren't for INEOS, there would be someone else. Of course, there'll be someone else. Anyway, all of those investment places are looking to put some money in. You know, see if they can get a foothold and buy more in the future, you know, and that's what Man United are. We are a financial mess. I watched that Kieran Maguire podcast the other day, and he was saying that, you know, the £300 million like loss that we've made over the last however many years is like £250 million of that are all because of it's all interest on loans. It's not money we've spent.
Just the interest.
It's just interest on loans. And again, it's ridiculous. And especially now with how, you know, like volatile the financial markets are at the moment, depending on how things are going, we could lose a shitload more.
Exactly.
And we've not done anything. We've not done anything. We've not spent. Just literally the market's changed. That's how effed we are. And as Leo says in the chat, imagine we actually had that. We've got an extra £250 million. Not even necessarily just players. I just mean in the club.
Now they want to say let's sack, and this is where it becomes awful because you've been complicit in making some bad decisions, like they said with Dan Ashworth and Ten Hag and this, that, and the other, and buying players that aren't for this system now. And now you want to say we need to sack more staff so we can buy more players when you still got, you know what I mean? I know they didn't buy these players, but you still got Anthony Casemiro there draining the resources, Sancho draining the resources, who have no future here. David says, I hate when you say they walked into the shit show. They had a period of exclusivity. If it was that bad, they should have backed out. Don't take it all from INEOS. I hear that, David. I hear what you're saying. They could have looked at it and gone, not for us. Obviously, they've taken on the challenge, which is why I'm not saying they don't deserve the criticism, bro. I agree with what you're saying. They had a chance to back out. Anybody who would have been taken on Man United would have walked into a shit show, though. Anyone. apart from somebody who was gonna, well, they all would have walked into it, but how they deal with it would have been different with the resources that you have. Obviously, with Sheikh Jassim and Qatar, there was rumors that he's not even real and stuff like that. No proof of funds and all that. They pushed back on that. Whatever. I'm not getting into that. But their offer apparently was full buyout, debt gone. Do you know what I mean? Unless someone's going to come in and do that, they're always going to struggle because, again, the Glazers have done this. They have completely dismantled our football club, completely from top to bottom. And shout out to you, David, as well. You're also the latest member of the UV community as well. So big up to you, bro. Keep having your say. United Love says, random question, but what are the laws around fan fundraising or investment? E.g., if fans all gave a tenner, would clear the debt. Why isn't that allowed? I'm going to be honest with you. I'm not a Kieran Maguire. So I can't sit here and say the reason why everybody can't do that is. But I think it's about how much of the club is actually just a theory that I would probably think. You guys in the chat probably more smart than me about this. Owen, same for you. Like probably how much of the club is up for that sort of public accessibility to actually have is not that much, because the Glazers like, we own that. If they opened it up and said our bigger percentage of the club can be owned, but because there's fans. When I was on Bloomberg that morning,
that's what I was just about to say.
There was a fan. I was with that fan who had stakes in the club. There are fans who can buy in, whatever percent. You can buy shares in Man United, but only a certain percentage of Man United can be owned by shares of that. So that's why.
Yeah, and also as well, it was interesting because you don't really. This is when you sort of it gets a bit weird, isn't it? Because like you said, you got you're sitting next to a fan there who tangibly owns a part of the club, but largely is actually completely helpless. Like they just like they get someone through the post, to say this is what's going on at these meetings, but not at a boardroom level. Don't really have that much influence over it, because once you get into like voting power and different shares have different levels of voting power, there's F all you can do, really, is there? You're like, oh, so, it's almost like,
again,
it doesn't really matter.
Glazers. So really the answer to your thing there, United Love, Glazers. They don't want to make that much of the club, percentage of that portion of the club accessible for every fan to put in a tenner around the world. Because if they did, they'd get bought out. They don't want to sell this club. They're not looking to actively to do that. And I think that's probably the simplest form, because we are not experts. I usually try to get experts to come in to talk about this because it's way above my head. I don't want to pretend like I know the intricacies and the numbers and this, that. I just give you my interpretation of how I think it is. And that's,
and also United Love, effectively, that's what INEOS are asking the fans to do anyway by raising the ticket prices. Because when they're going, we'll just raise the ticket prices by like, £20 each, and then, that'll pay off all the debt, and then we're like, no, don't want to do that, because it should be our burden to do, So,
and it's like, I think what they raised it and it saves like 1.2 million or something like that. That's stupid.
Because that's what they look at. Whenever anyone does that, it's like when any company raises prices on anything, because they get close to when they're going to be announcing their profits or whatever for a year. They go, need to get these a bit higher. So they go let's raise the prices by just £5 each, and suddenly we've had record revenues this year. And you go, well, because you raised the prices.
And also, it's
not the demand's changed.
Coming down. Never have you seen a price go up and then come back down again. If anything, it could go up and maybe freeze for a bit, but they're not going to put it to £66 to go, right, thanks for getting us through that. You guys proved that you'd actually pay it as well. Old Trafford was full every single week, but we're going to put it back down to 48.
So, I mean, it's not the demands ever changes. Exactly.
Yeah, Old Trafford will still be full if by doing this. It will. And that's the problem of why they exploit the fans' emotion or their love for the club. Yeah. Because they know it will. By putting it up, yes, some people will get priced out, which is disgusting, which is why we're so dead against it. But it will be replaced by somebody else who can afford it and has been wanting to come for their whole life. This is pay it.
This is like it in the wrestling right now. WWE, they're making record revenues, record profits. They're selling out every arenas. The ticket prices are higher now than they've ever been. And you think you would go, but they're getting so high. How will people just pay them? But like when they were over here in like the Glasgow, whatever, to get like at the top of the arena, costs you like £1,000. top of the arena in like a 16,000 seat. And you go like, who? What? But if they know people are there to pay it, then they will charge it. That's all that it will ever be.
Simple. Yeah. David says INEOS made the offer that allowed the Glazers to stay. Glazers didn't play any blinder. You just an INEOS sympathizer. Call them out. They are also the problem. So I'm an INEOS sympathizer, but also call out the Glazers because they're call out INEOS because they're also the problem. Well, again, David, I don't know. Again, you just joined the community, and I don't know if you only just joined where you didn't see anything we said beforehand about literally saying the shit things that they've done and why we're angry at INEOS. And like I said, when I said it's incompetence, I was one of the ones saying it's incompetence when they sacked Dan Ashworth. So I don't know how you've listened to everything I've said and have come to the conclusion that we're INEOS sympathizers.
By the way, Glazers absolutely played a blinder. They didn't want to sell the club. They didn't. And they got 1 point. They pocketed 1.6
How
billion
you
quid.
Can't see that and have passed sporting control onto somebody who owns the minority of the club. How is that not a blinder, bro?
Imagine that. Come the end of it. Has anything changed for us? No, we're in a little bit less. We've got 1.6 billion. And also people think that we're not making all the decisions now when we are.
This is draining, man. David, how could you don't think the Glazers have played a blinder? I don't. So what are they? Are the Glazers worse off for this? Are the Glazers in a worse position now, or are they still creaming the club?
Yeah,
as majority shareholders. Like, bro, I don't like. What are you seeing? Seriously, people and a lot of people in the chat say, "Oh, this is not normally Flex. Why are you these?" Because sometimes I have to just ask, like, come on, the Glazers are sitting there. While everyone's on about INEOS and Sir Jim Ratcliffe with the shit decisions they've made, by the way, and they're just sunning it up in America. What? Meanwhile, we're still owing 300 million for this, 200 million for that. The roof's still leaking. Sir Jim Ratcliffe's sort of talking about trying to get some investment for a new stadium. The Glazers are still the majority owners of this football club. Have you not forgot that?
Just an INEOS sympathizer, mate.
Fucking hell, man. It's mad. Honestly. Joe Fleming says, INEOS are making it worse by covering for the Glazers. And that's what the original question is. Are they making it worse? And I think they haven't made it better in a year. That's what I would say.
Absolutely.
So in making it worse.
That's what I said around Christmas time when that was a year in. I said, if you'd have said, people didn't expect everything to be completely solved. And, but, even just looking at 13th new manager, incoming director or sporting director, outgoing sporting director, and it has got worse in a year. But it's the case of whether you determine about was that inevitable given the trajectory that we were on financially and everything else involved, or have they contributed to that? And they have contributed to it.
They've definitely contributed to that. Of course they have. They've helped make it worse. Absolutely. Overhead Kick says Glazers are still here because of INEOS, guys. Come on. Do you remember when INEOS, before Sir Jim Ratcliffe and before there was two bidders, and then there was that other idiot? He ended up getting arrested, didn't he, or something? What that Danish guy? Yeah, remember? He went on the United Stand as well, dude.
But do you remember? I remember. This was even before the strategic alternative things got announced. Sir Jim Ratcliffe did a thing, didn't he? And he was like, "Oh, I would love to buy Man United, but it's not for sale.
Yes,
it's not for sale. Basically, it's not for sale." And what Manchester United or exploring strategic review of alternatives does not necessarily mean the club is up for sale. It means they are exploring strategic alternatives, which could include a sale, but it does not mean the club is up for sale. People explore strategic alternatives all the time. It's about exploring investment, whether that's investment of buying the whole thing or buying minority. It's mad.
Yeah, no, it's true. And I remember before, like, there was two, because people are hung up on this, like, it's INEOS's fault because they gave the Glazers a way out. So basically what people are saying is if INEOS didn't do this, the Glazers would be so stuck, they would have just had to sell it all. They would have been gone by now. No, that's not what would have happened. Please understand this. Please understand this. If INEOS didn't do this, somebody else would have done this and bailed them out. And also, before the two buyers were a thing, They had all these investors that were like, what was not part of banks, but they were all going to put in basically. Who was that? Oh,
yeah, like I said, there was like one of them was Carlisle. There were other. Remember, and again, when it came to the end of it, at the time which it was like, oh yeah, there wasn't proof of funding or whatever. Qatar, they said that there were a bunch of different bidders of ones that didn't come out publicly. The two most public ones were Qatar and INEOS, but there were a bunch of other ones too. There were private investment companies. Because again, they're always looking they're always looking to get into sporting opportunities, particularly in the Premier League. And even if it was going to be, a lesser percentage than INEOS, they were going to put in for 10% or give you $1 billion. They all work because they want to buy in. Of course they do. Again, the Glazers didn't want to sell, and they knew, and they probably, if you want to go into like the full sale thing, the only reason they probably even thought or considered the full sale is because after the Chelsea sale, and this happened to a lot of clubs, not just Manchester United, Liverpool were explored strategic alternatives too. They realized, holy shit, like Premier League clubs can be sold for a lot of money. So they thought with Man United being the biggest in the world, we could get double what Chelsea went for. We get double that or triple that. And then they realized that wasn't out there. So they went, oh, we just need investment still anyway. We don't want to sell. That's what it was.
Yeah, like Lewis said, there were private companies ready to invest in Man United people. Carlisle was one of them. That's what I'm saying. So this notion, like, again, you're just thinking off emotion, people. Like, sorry, who said that? And I mean this with the greatest of respect as well, by the way. So it was overhead kick. Glazers are still here because of INEOS. Come on. They're not only here because of INEOS, overhead kick TV. They had options and they would have found another option. They were never going to sell 100% of this football club.
Unless
somebody offered them the 9 billion that they wanted.
Unless that Qatari offer blew them out of the water, which they didn't want to do.
The initial thing that was the exclusive in the mail was the Glazer family admit they're ready to sell Manchester United, saying they will evaluate all options to maximize growth, but they want at least 5 billion and may even demand as much as 9 billion. Nobody met the Glazers' valuation because they're greedy bastards. If someone said, I'll give you 10 billion for that, they probably would have went, bloody hell. All right, cool.
They've gone, yes.
But nobody did.
You did.
Nobody did. So it was not an option. This whole full sale thing, it didn't meet. And I'm not protecting the Glazers. It's a disgrace that they wanted to hang on to it and didn't want to sell it for. Look what they bought it for. They bought it for like a couple of hundred million, didn't they?
Something not like even of their own money.
And got loans to get that. You can't. The way they bought the football club is illegal to even buy a football club like that now. So, but just stop doing this like they're only here because INEOS helped them. They still would have been here. Please understand that. United Love says, no, but like a fund, that's only for the debt. It can really only be used to clear the debt that was accumulated. Can't be used for infrastructure on transfers. I know we can't just wonder why. So no, but like a fund that's only for the debt. Oh, so why can't they start up a fund that United fans can all pay a tenner towards? It only goes just towards clearing off that debt to make us more sustainable. I hear that. It would be great if we all could. I'd put my tenner in. Overhead Kick TV says, question, what can we do as a community to force change? That's the difficult one, Overhead Kick. I mean, obviously we've had all our protests and we will continue to protest against the Glazers and make it known. And again, people don't like this answer, but the evidence shows us if they don't want to sell it, what can you do? You can say maybe don't go to games. Everybody, everybody don't go to the games. Everybody, but then which is one portion, an important part of the revenue. It would make a dent, but that supply and demand is always going to be there with the biggest club in the land. So people will always go to Old Trafford. Also, if nobody went to the stadiums, people would still watch. People would still get subscriptions. TV rights would still buy it. But it wouldn't help sponsorship. I get that. So maybe not going to the games. But I'm not going to sit here as a hypocrite about the love I have for this team. I want the Glazers out. So do I just not go to games? Because it's like if I just decide to do that single-handedly, Old Trafford's still going to have 75,000 people in it, -1, me. So. Do I miss out on watching my football club and doing what I love? And some people go there for their sanctuary. Like I said, like the guy sitting next to me, Joe. He's had a terrible time with illness up and down and stuff like that, but he keeps coming to Manchester United. That's his life. So it is a difficult one, Joe. Joe. Overhead Kick TV. It is a difficult one. David says INEOS wanted sporting control. If they didn't make the offer, the Glazers would have sold. They couldn't take dividends. INEOS gave Glazer an anonymity. So the Glazer, David, I can't do this anymore, bro. I'm not doing it. Honestly, I thought, and I said to Owen as well, I said, obviously, we're going to have to talk about the cuts and INEOS and stuff, but I think we need to talk about all of it. Let's not just home in on one bit. My God. Do you know what? The next time there's news about this, I ain't doing it. We're not talking about it. I know we say the news is the news and we have to talk about it. From now on, there is a ban on this channel from talking about the ownership, because this is what it does. This is what it does. And it's tongue in cheek, guys. Now he's definitely on the payroll. Now he doesn't even want to talk about the ownership. But, in fact, what I'm going to do, I want to get someone on and just speak to Mike Keegan and people close to breaking the INEOS stories, and maybe
find
Kieran Maguire. And it's just because this is stressful, man. This is too stressful. Because again, I'm not a pro at this as well. By the way, I'm not professing to be Mr. Bloomberg, financial fiscal, all of that shit. I don't have a clue about a lot of that stuff. But just like a basic interpretation, in my opinion, I just don't understand how some people are coming to certain conclusions. I wouldn't sit here and shut down everybody. I don't. That's wrong. I'm not. But some of the things that have been said this morning are just like, how are you seeing that? I don't get that.
Well, and also this idea that if the INEOS hadn't put a bid in, then Glazers would have been forced to sell. They'd have just found someone else. So the whole bidding process is about there's different rounds. People submit their bids, some publicly, some privately, on the condition of anonymity that it doesn't get out, by the way, as well. So we'll never know who did, but lots did. And in each round, they cut them out. You got to go higher? No, cut out. That's how it works. Like, just because we haven't heard or it wasn't disclosed publicly, the specific names, and a lot were disclosed publicly, that doesn't mean it was only two people. Only two people got to the final stage because they were the biggest ones. Again, this is how these things work. But it just, I guess, in this multiverse, other reality, it's like, well, if there was zero bidders, then they would have been forced to sell. But there was never, ever, ever a reality where there were zero bidders of any kind of investment. That is complete.
Because people are acting like the Glazers had no options. If INEOS didn't give them this option, they would have been screwed. Not true.
True.
It's as simple as that. Christian Falk, mate. Not true. Yeah.
And again, when they
put these been effed if they didn't take this bid from Sajid.
And when they put there was a lot of people, especially the investment bets, when they put these bid in, they're like, right, this is completely anonymous, completely private. That's all it is. If anything, it's atypical for people to put out, publicly that they're going to put money in, or that we're going to be putting a bid in. That's why we only heard a couple of people. And then if we heard other people, it was largely PR stunts, like the guy with the phone app. Everyone can vote on decisions because bullshit.
Oh, mate, I need a break. I'll see you lot tomorrow morning, man. Thanks for watching, everybody. I love Super Chat here, actually, or Members Chat, actually. Shout out to Eminem. It says, big up UV, LOL. I get your frustration. Lots of people still believe the alternative buyout narrative since there is a bigger channel pushing it. I don't know. I don't know if there's a bigger channel pushing it. I don't know what other people are saying, but shout out to you, Eminem. I just know what my feelings are on it, and I don't get how people can be like this. We just, if we didn't take this, it would have been fine, because that's basically what people are saying. No, it's INEOS's fault. This is because if they gave them a way out, they would have been stuck.
As Red Devils 99 says, Flex. As Red Devils 99 says, Flex. There are only two parties in the world with money, apparently, INEOS and Sheikh Nassim.
Yes.
That's it. There's only two people.
Exactly. Mental. Man United versus Spurs. Says EMXG. No, I can't. We'll do that another time. There's the preview coming out with me and Abby. Actually, check that out. That's coming out. Actually, that's going to be out till Saturday morning. Actually, and I'm going to be checking in with Tobes as well. He's been losing his mind recently.
Yeah.
We're going to do something on Friday, but again, that'll probably go out on Saturday as well. Saturday, you get all your Tottenham stuff. You know what I mean? Yeah. But yeah, honestly, right, guys, smash a like on the way out if you can bear to. We'll see you on another video very soon. And if anything happens in between, if there's a full sale by the time the next video comes out, we will be live. I promise.
Yeah.
Go on. Take care. Peace.